The average backyard chicken keeper spends between $400 and $800 a year on commercial chicken feed every year, without fail. Because that's what you do when you keep chickens. You buy the feed, you open the bag, you pour it in the feeder, and next month you buy another bag. Amish families in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, have not bought commercial chicken feed in generations. Their chickens are healthy. Their egg production is strong. Their birds live longer than conventionally fed flocks, and the system that makes all of that possible costs almost nothing to set up and maintains itself for decades once it's running. I'm going to walk you through exactly how they do it. And I'm saving the most important piece for the end because it's a single plant that the Amish discovered does something that no commercial feed product can replicate. One planting, 20 years of free feed, and it improves your soil at the same time. If you keep chickens or you're thinking about it, share this video right now with every chicken keeper you know. What we're covering today will cut their feed bill to almost nothing, and most of them have never heard any of it. Let's get into it. First, I want to say something honest. I bought commercial chicken feed for years without questioning it. It was just part of the cost of keeping birds. You budget for it. You accept it. The feed store becomes part of your monthly routine the same way the grocery store is. Then I started paying attention to how Amish families integrate their chickens into the rest of the farm. And I realized that in the Amish model, a chicken is not a mouth you feed. A chicken is a worker you deploy. It earns its keep through pest control, soil fertilization, and egg production. And the system around it is designed so the farm feeds the chicken, not the feed store. That shift in thinking changes everything about how you manage your flock. Here's the foundation of it. The Amish never separate their animals from their land. Chickens are not kept in a fixed coop eating bagged grain in isolation from the rest of the operation. They move through the garden system, through the compost system, through the cover crop system. Every part of the farm contributes to feeding the birds, and every bird contributes back to the farm. Modern backyard chicken keeping broke that relationship. We put birds in a stationary run, pour in commercial feed, and then wonder why our feed bill is high and our chickens look bored. The Amish rebuilt the relationship. And when you understand how, the feed bill disappears almost entirely. Now here is something that is going to challenge what most chicken keeping guides have been telling you. Commercial chicken feed, even the premium organic varieties, is not what chickens evolved to eat. Chickens are omnivores. They evolved eating insects, worms, seeds, greens, grubs, and whatever else they could scratch up from the ground. The bagged grain product is a convenience food designed for industrial production. It keeps birds alive and laying at acceptable rates, but it is not optimal nutrition, and it is definitely not free. The Amish figured this out not through research papers, but through generations of watching what their birds actually thrive on, what they eat when given the choice, what produces the most vibrant yolks, the strongest shells, the most consistent laying. The answer was never a bag from the feed store. Drop a comment right now if you keep chickens and tell me how much you're spending on feed every month. I want to see the actual numbers people are dealing with, because what comes next is going to make those numbers look completely unnecessary. The first method is the one that requires the least setup and produces results the fastest. Garden waste and kitchen scraps fed directly to the flock. This sounds obvious. Most chicken keepers already throw scraps to their bird, but the Amish approach is more systematic than occasional scraps. They run what I'd call a complete food loop. Nothing organic leaves the kitchen or garden as waste. Everything goes through the chickens first. Vegetable trimmings, wilted greens, spent plants pulled from garden beds, weeds pulled during morning patrol, overripe fruit, bread scraps, cooked grain leftovers, all of it goes to the birds before it goes to the compost pile. The chickens extract the nutrition. What they don't eat and what passes through them becomes some of the richest fertilizer available. That fertilizer feeds the garden. The garden produces more food and more scraps. The scraps feed the chicken. Around and around, a closed loop that costs nothing and wastes nothing. The Amish have been running this loop for generations. They never thought of it as a system. It was just how things worked. The idea of throwing food scraps in the trash and then buying grain to feed the chickens would have seemed completely absurd to them. To implement this today, you need exactly one thing: a designated bucket in your kitchen for chicken scraps. Everything organic that isn't going to be eaten by your family goes in that bucket. End of the day, it goes to the birds. That's the whole setup. The second method is the one that surprised me most when I first learned about it, because it produces a protein source for chickens that rivals commercial feed on a nutritional level, and it essentially runs itself once established. Black soldier fly larvae. If you've never heard of these, stay with me. Black soldier fly larvae are the juvenile form of a beneficial fly, not a pest, that naturally appears wherever there is decomposing organic matter. They are extraordinarily high in protein and fat, up to 40% protein by dry weight, higher than most commercial feed formulations. The Amish don't call them black soldier fly larvae. They just know that a pile of decomposing organic matter in a warm corner of the property will produce grubs that their chickens go absolutely wild for. Here's the simple setup. Find a container, a wooden box, a plastic bin, anything that can hold organic material and has drainage. Fill it with kitchen scraps, garden waste, manure, anything decomposing. Place it somewhere warm and partially shaded. In warm months, black soldier flies will find it naturally and begin laying eggs within days. The larvae hatch, consume the organic material, and self-harvest into a collection bucket below when they're mature. Your chickens get a continuous supply of high-protein live feed. The organic waste gets completely consumed. The residue left behind is some of the most nutrient-rich compost you can produce. Zero cost, self-managing once established, runs all summer without intervention. I'll be honest with you, the first time I showed this to a friend who keeps chickens, she looked at me like I'd lost my mind. 2 weeks after setting it up, she texted me to say her chickens had stopped showing much interest in their commercial feed pellet. The larvae were that much more appealing to the bird. That's not surprising. You're giving them what they evolved to eat. Of course they prefer it. The third method is one that works while you're sleeping, while you're at work, while you're not even thinking about your chicken. Sprouted grain. If you do buy grain for your flock, and there's nothing wrong with that as a supplement, sprouting it before you feed it transforms its nutritional profile dramatically. Here's what happens when a grain sprouts. The germination process breaks down the phytic acid that blocks nutrient absorption. It increases the bioavailability of protein, vitamins, and minerals. It roughly doubles the volume of what you're feeding, meaning you need to buy half as much grain to feed the same number of birds. And chickens prefer sprouted grain over dry grain almost universally. The method is straightforward. Soak your grain in water for 8 to 12 hours. Drain it. Spread it in a shallow tray. Rinse it once a day. In 3 to 5 days, it's sprouted and ready to feed. The Amish have been sprouting grain for their animals through winter for generations, especially when garden waste and forage aren't available. It's how they stretch a small amount of purchased grain through a long, cold season. If you're buying 50 pounds of grain a month right now, sprouting it would cut that to 25 pounds of grain, producing the same volume of feed. That's half your feed bill eliminated with nothing more than water and 3 days of waiting. If you found value in that, hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second and it helps this channel reach more chicken keepers who are paying bills they don't need to pay. Now, here's the one I've been building, the one that changes the whole picture. The hidden gem that makes everything else we've covered look like a warm-up. Comfrey. C-O-M-F-R-E-Y. If you don't know this plant, pay very close attention to what I'm about to say. Because this is the thing the Amish figured out that almost nobody in modern chicken keeping has rediscovered. Comfrey is a perennial plant. You plant it once, it comes back every year for the rest of your life without any intervention. It cannot be killed by frost. It regrows after cutting faster than almost any plant you've ever seen. In a single growing season, a mature comfrey plant can be cut and harvested 4 to 6 times. The leaves of comfrey contain protein levels comparable to alfalfa, one of the most nutritionally dense livestock feeds available. They contain calcium, potassium, phosphorus, and a compound called allantoin that promotes cellular repair and immune function in animals. Chickens eat comfrey leaves directly and enthusiastically. You cut the leaves and throw them in the run. The birds strip them clean within minutes. But here's the part that makes this extraordinary. Comfrey roots go down 3 to 6 feet into the soil. They pull up minerals from deep in the subsoil that nothing else reaches. Those minerals end up in the leaves. When the chickens eat the leaves and produce manure, those deep minerals end up on your garden surface. Comfrey is essentially a mineral pump, pulling nutrition up from deep underground and depositing it where your garden can use it. And when you cut comfrey for chicken feed, the plant responds by growing back even faster and stronger. Cutting it stimulates growth rather than harming it. One comfrey patch established in a corner of your property will produce chicken feed continuously from spring through fall for 20 years or more without a single dollar spent on maintenance. It also provides mulch material, activates your compost pile when added to it, and improves the soil around it as its deep roots decompose over time. The Amish don't think of comfrey as a chicken feed supplement. They think of it as a permanent piece of infrastructure, like a well or a fence, something you establish once that serves the farm indefinitely. I planted my first comfrey patch 3 years ago. It's now the size of a small car. My chickens get fresh comfrey several times a week through the growing season. My compost pile activates faster because of it, and my soil in that corner of the property is noticeably richer than anywhere else in my garden. $20 for the initial crown cutting. That's what it costs to start. 3 years later, that $20 investment has replaced hundreds of dollars in feed, compost activator, and soil amendment. Let me pull this all together because there's a principle underneath everything we covered today. The conventional chicken keeping model is a straight line. Feed store to bag to feeder to chicken to egg. You are always dependent on the supply chain, the price of grain, and the fuel cost that drives both. The Amish model is a loop. Kitchen scraps feed the chickens. Chicken manure feeds the garden. The garden produces more scraps and more comfrey. The comfrey feeds the chickens. The larvae system converts waste into protein. Everything cycles. Nothing leaves as waste. Nothing needs to be purchased from outside the loop once it's running. That loop does not happen by accident. It happens because someone decided that dependency on purchased inputs was a problem worth solving, and then spent 200 years solving it. You can start building your version of that loop this week. 1 bucket for kitchen scraps. 1 comfrey crown ordered online for a few dollars. 1 warm corner for a larvae bin. 3 things. That's the beginning of a system that could eliminate your feed bill within 1 growing season. Which of these are you starting with? Drop the number in the comments. 1 for the kitchen scrap loop. 2 for the black soldier fly system. 3 for sprouted grain. 4 for comfrey. I read every comment and I want to know where people are jumping in. And if you know a chicken keeper who is tired of that monthly feed bill, share this video with them directly, not just in a group. Send it to one specific person. That's the share that actually changes something for someone. Subscribe if you haven't already. The next video is going to challenge something even more deeply held than your watering schedule or your feed bill, and it connects directly to everything we've covered across the last 6 videos. I'll see you in the next one.